Hello everyone watching on YouTube and listening on Spotify. It's another episode of NRG Insights. For those that don't know, or are first time listeners, this is where we speak to influential people in the market, whether that be mortgage broking, specialist lending or any kind of ancillary products in between. So today I've got the pleasure of having Mark Harrington with me, who is the CEO of London & Country. Thanks for joining me, Mark.
Yeah, thanks for having me on board.
No problem at all. So just tell me about, I really want to delve into like the interesting bits about being such a big machine, but just for the listeners, tell me about your kind of financial services journey that's taken you to the CEO of L&C.
Yeah, I kind of fell into it like many people in this industry. I was just doing a bit of a dead end job locally back in 2003, and I had a friend that worked at L&C, and they said come along and join. So I went for an interview there as a mortgage and protection advisor and didn't get the job first time round. I won't say who interviewed me because I think some are still around.
Still there.
But yes, so just walked away with my tail between my legs and then had another go about 6 months later and was lucky enough to get a job. So I was a mortgage and protection advisor, done that for about 3 years, and then I thought, listen, I need to get into management, just like the progression and managing people. And so, again, I went for that job 4 times internally.
This is a tale of persistence, Mark, isn't it? This is definitely
absolutely, yeah. It's probably, that'll probably come out all the way through this. So yeah, went for that 4 times. Lucky enough on the 4th time to get it over probably a period of 9 to 12 months, and then just really enjoyed management. And from that point, made my way up through the ranks. Was made COO. December 22, and then a year ago was made CEO.
Amazing. So hell of a journey, right? So that's a long time to be in the same business. I mean, talk to me about what it was like when you first joined in comparison to what it is now.
Oh, wow. Completely different. I think it was very small. There was probably 50 advisors at that time.
How many have you got now?
Maybe even less than that. We've got like 440.
Incredible.
Yeah, so about 40 to 50 advisors at that time. It was great fun. It was a brilliant company to work for. There wasn't a lot of the red tape that's around nowadays, and just the culture was superb. Obviously, the MD at the time, Philip Cartwright, who's still an advisor to Exco now to this day, just ran an unbelievable company. That was hard work, but it was a lot of fun. And I think the culture at that stage was superb, and yeah, it's been a long old journey. 22 years in June, and to be honest, I still love it to this day. I think a lot of people would say I've been institutionalized at L&C, but I think with the experiences I've gained from different leaders across that period, and all the things that happen usually annually in the mortgage industry with things hurting us, I've got a lot of experience along the way.
But let's go through some of those those pain points, because obviously you've been through everything there, right? You've been through 2008, you've been through trust economics, and the working from homes, and I mean, to be fair, you were doing that before, weren't you? You had that model.
Yeah, well, no, we didn't really work from home.
I thought you had both. I thought you had a hybrid of.
No, not before. I
will touch on the working from home thing. I know it's a bigger debate, but I can get your opinion on it later on. So, how has it been for you? Obviously, you've been through maybe 3 or 4. I mean, we haven't had a comfortable period forever, but how is it? No. How is it for you, and especially as a business like L&C, where you're obviously trying to grow? You've got these ambitions to be the biggest, which you definitely are now. How were those times? How did you function as a business, and how did you and especially as a management team?
Yeah, it's difficult. It is really, really difficult. And I'm sure, listen, that's the obvious answer that everyone else would probably say the same to as well. But when you're working at the scale that we do and the volume, to have that volume reduced and have a fixed cost is really, really difficult. Okay. Back to the credit crunch 2008. Yeah, I was still pretty inexperienced around business at that stage. And you just seen this absolute storm going on around you. But I think from then on in, you just think that everything is always okay. We always get through it. This industry is so robust, and I think time time is always the ally. I seen Tom Hanks do something last week where he said time is the ally and like shall pass.
Good times and bad times, this too shall pass, wouldn't it? It's just
absolutely, and I think it's exactly that, and that's what I've learned over the years. Is like I kind of find I'm obsessed with L&C and I'm obsessed with doing well in their business. But and listen, the people in L&C will probably think, Christ, you never stop. You're always wanting more. You're always wanting more. But I think that's one thing that I've definitely learned through the storms is it'll be okay.
Have you noticed that, especially with the kind of, not that the mortgages have ever been particularly easy, but if you've been in it maybe 6 or 7 years, you probably haven't had to overly sell until recently, if we're honest, because base rates were so low, money was cheap, so it's very difficult. So how have you found that kind of changing, maybe not mindset, but you know what I mean? Like younger brokers haven't really had to sell too much, or haven't had to kind of move from the same model for a very long time. How have you found remotivating those guys when it has got more difficult?
I think people have found it difficult, to be honest. And we've got a good management structure at L&C, and there's a lot of coaching that goes on, which helps out with that. But listen, I think at times any level of coaching doesn't help people when they've been doing the same thing for 5 or 6 years. It takes a long time to drag people out of that. So yeah, we do have people that do struggle with it, and we try and help them as much as possible with the learning and development department. But yeah, it's been a tough one. Like you go back to the days when the rates were reducing and you could save early repayment charges for people that. Like people wouldn't have had that exposure to those kind of things, and it's a difficult time for some. I think some, as I said, some have struggled, some have really embraced it because listen, they love the selling aspect.
Do you know what? I think that's it. I think it's the magic of it became a job for a while that wasn't a particularly difficult sales job. So then actually people really thrive, or you really struggle with it. Depends on how you like to, same as recruitment, right? It's tough, and it gets tougher. There's no to keep people motivated. That's I think I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this, because obviously you hire a lot of people from very young, up to more senior people, but everyone is motivated by something slightly different now. I mean, have you found that when you're recruiting now? Is it a different? You have to look at different selling points as a business.
Yeah, we always have hired inexperienced people that haven't grown up like me wanting to be a mortgage advisor.
No one did. No one's ever grown up wanting to be one.
And we've always been proud of that model. We still are to this day, because we're getting new people into the industry. And I think I read something 6 months ago where the amount of people that are coming into the industry is reducing dramatically.
It's shocking when you look at the stats, honestly. And I've said this before, and I know. Sorry to jump in. I know that you guys do it, but I also understand why some people don't, because you do need deep pockets and patience, which is tough, and not everyone's got it. If you're a well-oiled machine, right? So you've got that kind of L&D department, and you've got the processes and that kind of thing. But at the same time, there are some other companies that need to step up to the plate and say, look, there's a skills gap, and we are all duty bound to the industry to try and fill that gap. And I know you guys are trying to achieve that as well. But I think there's a very small part of the market that does that.
Absolutely, and we feel like a breeding ground to other companies.
Yeah, I mean that's an honour as well, right?
Absolutely, and it's our job to keep people as well. And the best thing to happen when people do leave is we get a huge amount coming back, and I think that's one of the key things with the industry is we move, like robo advice has been around for ages, and AI nowadays. Like we get lots of people that come back and say, I don't feel like I'm giving advice where I've gone.
Can I just say that robo-advice is absolute bullshit, because for the robo-advice to work, you need 40, 50 brokers sat in a room. That's what we did before.
It's happen.
It's a lead gen, it's front end, isn't it? But I mean, it will get better, no doubt, but it's the worst it's ever going to be. But for the robo-advice to say it was taking out the brokers was a joke.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Now, I always think that there needs to be a human at the end of this transaction. It's the biggest transaction in most people's lives. But to hear people come back and say, I don't feel like I'm giving advice, it's really good, because that just shows the people that we have trained up along the way.
They understand it's an emotional sale as well, right? It's not just it's something really important to people. It's not just the pounds and pence. And obviously a computer can't work that out. It just works on figures. So leadership-wise, obviously you've worked under some really good leaders, been in the same business for long. Do you know what? This is testament as well, by the way, to get up to CEO. about grafting in the same job? Because most people look at, obviously, I'm in recruitment, I don't mind moving people, but lots of people look at the next step up as to move, rather than kind of sit down, graft in the same, in the same business. Have you always been like that? Like, because you love the brand and you love the product, and you can see the pathway there, or you understand why people kind of have to step out to step up?
Yeah, I understand both. Like, again, I've obviously seen it one way, but let's not think that I've never thought I need to move on to get to where I need to get to. But then LNC's always done what I wanted it to do in the end. Do you know what I mean? And that's the good thing. I didn't have plans on being a CEO. Obviously, a year ago, it happened, and it was great, and I moved into it, and I absolutely loved it. But if you'd asked me 10 years ago, I didn't think, right, I want to be CEO. I just seen it. What I always thought was just move up to the next level and see where you go from there.
It's been quite daunting for you, because no one knows the next job up, right? You don't know it until you've done it.
Yeah.
Have they always been quite? Has LNC kind of look after you into that, kind of nurturing to that next role, or you learn as you go, or they just trust you with it?
I think I wouldn't say nurture, but they gave exposure to those levels. Like when you're one level below, being in and doing a presentation at board, that was pretty daunting when you're not at that level. And I think by being in those environments, it just absolutely gave me the experience to be where I am today. But listen, most of it's about people, right? It's about people. So again, it's the person management skills that I think have made a massive difference. Like again, there's lots more to running a business, and there's lots that go on day by day, but it's all about people, in my opinion.
And do you get caught up in that kind of day-to-day? I'm assuming it's a big business, right? You've got strategy-wise, you're not at the coalface as such as CEO now. Do you miss that bit, or do you?
Yeah, so I've been doing both for the last 12 months. I've been doing CEO and COO. I have been involved in both. So again, Sydney's on board. Sydney Wages on board as MD from April the 7th. So that will then give me the chance to stand back and just work more on the strategy part of it while he's running the business. Nice. But yeah, it's been a long but good 12 months. I've been involved in both.
Keep busy.
And
that's why you keep cancelling the podcast.
Yeah, exactly that. It took a year.
So what do you think? What have you learned over the last 12 months that do you think as CEO? What are the kind of the big takes? Because no one else is in your position, right? There's not many. Well, there's probably 2 or 3 big mortgage businesses. And there's way too many one-man bands. So what have you learned about that bigger business side of things?
It's not just the last 12 months. It's probably the last 2.5 years. It was just how much culture is important in a business. I've never really got on side with that over the years, and I 100% know now that the culture is the most important thing, and it's
really, really, really funny you say that, because I was always a bit like, the culture thing's a bit wishy-washy. Like, is it bean bags, ping pong tables and all that? And actually, your culture is about your work ethic and about how everyone comes to work and how everyone takes the business seriously and understands the vision. And I see it so much because I'm lucky enough to see hundreds of businesses from the outside. It's really obvious to me that culture is right at the top of the list. Even when it comes to like losing people, or you're not always going to be super successful, and sometimes you're going to have bad times. If the culture remains, you're always a tangible business that people want to go and work for.
Yeah, even the words used to drive me insane.
It's a bit bullshit, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think that over a period of probably 2.5 years, I just think it's just become obvious to me that that's the most important in a business. And I think, what do I mean by, like, you talk about like table tennis and table tennis tables and things like that. We've got one in the building we're at, by the way. But I just think, like, I link it back. Like, for me, the biggest thing about culture is just making sure that everything still goes on when you're there, and just making sure that, I don't know, I always think like the happy workforce are the ones that are going to work the hardest.
That's a research-driven thing. Happy people are productive people. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
How do you maintain the culture? Because obviously you've gone from office, working from home. I'm not sure what your plans are for the future, but everyone seems to be, slowly heading back into workspaces. How do you maintain that culture? Because it's tough, right? Yeah. Everyone's stood staring at a screen at home.
Yeah, it's really difficult. and we've got lots of people that don't want to come into the office, and that's their prerogative. Do you know what I mean? If the way I see it, if they're doing the job the way we want to do it, then absolutely fine. I don't care where people work, and I've really changed on that opinion, by the way, as well. Like, if you'd asked me
I will go on, carry on, mate. I don't want to.
Yeah, no, if you had asked me that 2-3 years ago, I'd have said everyone needs to come back to the office. So I've definitely changed. The reason I want people in the office is for engagement. I want people to go and be around people, and just do events after work and things like that. Unfortunately, nowadays, not everyone wants to do it. So I've come to the conclusion.
We're also the loneliest generation of workers. We're also the ones with the biggest mental health problems. It's also the one generation that feel like they're so disconnected, yet they don't want to connect after work. I think it's because that's the disconnect, right? And I'm going to jump on my soapbox while working from home, because you said the people that are doing their job properly can work from home. But for me, I find that super frustrating, because someone taught them in an office so they can become good at their job, and then all they're doing is, I don't know, it's a bit about giving back, you know? Like, I could work from home, realistically. We could both probably do our jobs from home. I understand, I'm very driven, I can do it, it's not a problem, but no one learns off me then, without being big-headed. I honestly think people in the office get better from listening to you. And then, you know what I mean? So those people that can work from home, great, you're doing your job. But I just think it's a very selfish attitude of people to go, oh, well, I'm all right. You know, it's the next generation issue. We're going to end up with a Zoom-trained third generation of mortgage brokers, which I don't think will understand the complexities, or like the picking up on people's personalities and stuff that we got, because we were very blessed that we got to work in an office.
Absolutely, and listen, I don't disagree with you at all, and I think it's spot on. We've just had to find other ways to try and do that, because listen,
you've also got to get people to work, haven't you? People don't want to work, they live somewhere else.
Absolutely. Like it's a bit like mortgage brokers in non-league football. You could go down the road for £5 difference money. People, listen, if you got to go careful that people don't just move on. Like, again, we've been through some tough times the last 3 or 4 years, and we had a lot of advisors leave, and you just got to make sure that doesn't happen again. And it's you've had to change your view, but like we do train everyone on Zoom, but then they come into the office until they're competent. Do you know what I mean? So
there's got to be a happy medium, isn't there? I know it's the toughest thing in the world. It's easy for me to stand there and go, you know, everyone's got to go back in, but I've got 8 people who like being in the office. You've got 450, and so if 20% of yours don't want to be in, that's a massive, you know, it's a huge amount of people, you know. So I do appreciate it's a tough task. I just think, I don't know whether it's an education piece for people, you know, but just yes, working from home is easier. And if you're just selling mortgages, but I think there's a much bigger picture about the vision of the business and culture, like you say, that I think is being missed. And if you started working, like if you've only been a broker for say 5 years, most of your career you've been working from home, so you don't know any different. If they could see how the industry grew, like the industry's not growing, right? It's a tough industry that isn't growing, and we can't seem to put the connection together that we're also working from home. You know, it's a tricky one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, and listen, if it got to the state, like, I don't think we'd ever do this because of the reasons I said earlier, but yeah, no one would be happier if everyone was there learning off everyone else. Like, I remember being in the office, and the thing is, and we love, like, we want to get people in that are struggling, people that are struggling with not just work, with mental health. So much better doing a training session with people face to face, but unfortunately, you also got that people don't want to learn either. That's the problem. Well,
again, I think that's an industry. That's an all-round industry issue, isn't it? They've got like the basics, and they can pay their mortgage. But I suppose that's how that's how the cream rises to the top as well, right? Is that these guys stick out like a sore thumb now, who actually are like got mega desire to learn and work and earn. It's I think but again, it's a difficult one for you because everything's echo chambered 10 times, right? Because you've got so many people to work with.
Yeah.
What is your? So you're getting people back in, or you've got people back in, but you're.
Yes. So pre-COVID, we didn't do any you were even lucky to get a laptop that you could work from home.
See, I thought pre-COVID you had already started that process. I didn't know.
No, we wouldn't. Yeah, it was a massive operational effort to get people all working from home in that 2 weeks straight.
That's nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, and to be fair, the IT team at the time, they've done unbelievably well to get that going. But yeah, we're pretty flexible now. We've got people that want to be in the office all the time. We've got, as they say, advisors who are trying to attain competency. They're in the office 4 times a week, 3-4 times a week. And then we've got remote advisors that just work all over the country, so they never come in. And then we've got people that choose not to come in as well. So we've got a mix of everything.
I suppose, like you say, it all depends on like location and that kind of thing. Because clearly, if you're working from home, I do appreciate that your geographical restrictions are lifted, aren't they? So you get the best of everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you also, you know, whether you get 20% more employees and 20% less productivity, it's difficult. It's I think God about work from home for ages. There's no right or wrong. So sorry, I'll leave that subject because I'll just keep banging on about it. But so leadership-wise, who's helped you in your career, and how has that kind of shaped you as a leader? Who are the people that you think really kind of developed you?
I think back to when I was playing football, there was football managers, and just seeing how they treated people differently. And I think that's where the passion for managing came from. And then I'd have to say it's got to be obviously Phil Cartwright. Again, really, really helped me, and still helping me to this day. Just offers that counsel when you need it, just if you're a little bit unsure on making a decision. But that's probably the biggest part of it. But then I've obviously got Phil Rickards, who's chair at the moment, and real help to me. But what I would probably say is I've probably learned something both good and bad.
I was going to say that you get a bit of even off of bad managers, you get good learning, right? You find out a little bit about how you don't want to act. But so, when you say Phil Cartwright, what kind of leader was he? Because obviously he built something fantastic.
Yeah, he did. And again, he was a leader. I suppose the biggest thing, he didn't have an office. He just sat with everyone.
And that was back in the day when people did have an office, right? That was when you had your ivory tower,
yeah, absolutely. So he just had an office in the middle of Beezer House. There's no more, but yeah, he had an office. He didn't have an office there. He had a desk, and he was just he was open and accessible to everyone. And I think that's kind of the thing that we've tried to move it to now. I think when L&C was a lot smaller, communication was unbelievable. When it became bigger, communication became harder, and I think we weren't as good at it. And that's why we're trying at the moment to be as communicative as we possibly can.
I suppose that's a self-awareness thing as well, right? You feel, it, especially where you were in the business years ago when it was smaller. You can sense what worked and what hasn't worked and what you need to improve on. How do you do that though? Again, with the communication and transparency, 440 people working from home and some in the office. What do you do in particular that you think is kind of that helps your guys?
I think the great, like we do quarterly all hands calls, which I'm sure everyone does. There's no different with them. But two out of those 4 all hands calls a year, we just have a Q&A where we answer every question that someone asks. Like, we don't shy away from anything. And I think that the biggest, and I'm truthful to them as well. And I think which everyone respects, even when sometimes it's something they don't want to hear, right? But I think that knowing that that they're getting the truth every time, I think absolutely helps with that, with just the trust nature.
How do you manage that? How do you manage feedback? Because obviously you've got a lot of advisors. Everyone wants to give their opinion on what's good and what's not. How do you manage feedback and make sure everyone's heard?
We've got no such thing as a bad idea email group that people can send to, and then that goes into a group. And to get it running, like for the first 6 months when I was COO. They all came to me, so I answered everyone just to show people that we're taking it really seriously. We've made so many decent changes off the back of those, by the way, and it's people knowing that they can sense that. The greatest thing we're trying to build is just that culture, though, where people can raise their hand and disagree, and knowing that they can do that without victimization or discrimination or even discipline, and it is a trust issue, and we're building and building that. I still don't think we're there yet, but I just want everyone to know that they can just put their hand up.
It increases creativity, doesn't it? If there's no fear of backlash of coming up with an idea, then it increases creativity tenfold because you've got 440 minds there instead of 6 people at the top. It does. It's massive, but like you say, it's a very much. It's a work in progress, right? Because people also feel like they're also telling their boss something's not right.
And we've also it may be corny. We've got an open door policy as well. Anyone can come and speak whenever they want to. Like, I think that one of the key things that I've done for the executive team is we're making people understand that we work for them, not the other way around. Exco works for the business, and they don't work for Exco. And I think and again, it's building that culture, building trust to make sure people know that we're just one of them. Like,
he did it. He used to do the job.
There is a hierarchy. there is a hierarchy of title, but there isn't in terms of being sat next to someone and giving feedback. Absolutely
so
not.
how is the management structure underneath Exco with you guys in? Because obviously that's 440. Do you have a strict amount of like, this is how many people you can manage, and then we've got to look at?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, obviously with the we do have spans of control and everything like that. So like each team manager probably about 15 people they look after. Less if you're in the academy, which is a great tool for us. But yeah, there's various layers. There's lots of supporting. We've got a learning and development section which helps out with the coaching and the inductions and things like that. But yeah, it's the structure's good. I've tried in the last year. I've wanted to build an Exco that is world class, and I think, and I've done, and Sydney was the last piece coming in. And what I wanted to do was just build that team that runs the business better than I do. I think that's absolutely key to me. And
it's the age-old adage, isn't it? Surround yourself with people that are better than you. You know, it's like but that takes a bit of humility, I suppose. You know, but at the same time, it's good for the business. And like you say, you're there for the positive side of the business, right?
Absolutely. But yeah, I think the team we got at the moment is brilliant. And yeah, for us, it's really exciting future, to be honest.
How do you see the next few years? I mean, you've got to be positive, right? It can't be any harder than it's been. But how do you see kind of the rest of this year, next year panning out?
I think we've got to be positive. I'm hoping that, touch wood, it's 1 year where we don't have a setback. Do you know what I mean? And I really think that I've had a good period. Like the last year in this industry has been pretty good. There was only a little bit in the summer last year where the productivity reduced a little bit because of what was going on. But I think I've had a good period, to be honest. So we've got to look positively. I don't think there's anything less than positive at the moment. It's all the right noises. Listen, I don't want to get too political, but what Rachel Reeves is doing around the regulation, that's only going to help. Because
if they do it,
listen, I think, as I've mentioned it once already, but there's a lot of red tape around, which you kind of think this industry's been around a long time. Yeah, we do the right things for customers, absolutely. So that'll only help. So only see positive.
Good. And how? The one thing I wanted to touch on, which I think will interest people as a juggernaut that you are, lead generation wise. Obviously, you've got a hell of a backbook, right? You've got since you've had 20 odd years of backbook, but how do you continually kind of keep it fresh when it comes to marketing and making sure that your guys are fed on the lead generation side?
It's probably a daily job.
It changes constantly as well, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Obviously, the seasonality is the thing that changes the most. But we talk about it daily. I think that the huge challenge to all of us as mortgage brokers it'll be lead generation over the coming years, which is why we're putting a lot of emphasis on that. We brought Gemma Bacon in as Chief Marketing Officer. She's been in 3 months now, having a really good impact. And we talk about it. It really does get talked about daily.
I mean, that's the magic, isn't it? Lead gen is the magic of mortgage broking, because mortgage broking is mortgage broking with the greatest respect to everyone. It's getting the customers in front of you, isn't it? Which is obviously tough when you're 2-man, 3-man band. I can't imagine the pressure of 440 advisors making sure that everyone's fed, because there's always going to be someone not happy with it, right? There's always someone. Lead gen is, as we all know, is never perfect.
Yeah, and as volume player like we are, it's making sure we make the most out of everything. Which I don't think we've ever done that. There's always another lead. So part of it is not what we're doing. Is the culture is not just getting as much as we can through the door, which we all want, by the way, but making as much out of it as we can.
Utilising every lead, because you've paid for it, right? You've paid.
Absolutely.
And it makes sense. I mean, I always think that there's a lead in a lead. I think it's crazy when you look at those guys who've built up really strong businesses are just asking for referrals, and then other people don't do it. It just seems nuts. Or we did it for a bit, and it's like, it's on our email. Like, no one gets to the bottom of your email signature and goes, they work off referrals. Do you know what I mean? But that's a huge part of the business, isn't it? Is actually, do you think you had to educate people on that as well? Because it was relatively easy to just pick up another lead. You have to drive people to go, are they incentivised on getting their own stuff, or is it just expected now as a business?
They will be, but we just don't, because there's another one round the corner. We're not as good. Like you talk about referrals, they're the best leads you can get, obviously. Do you know what I mean? And it's making sure that everyone else. And would I say we're brilliant at the moment? No, absolutely not.
Like you say, though, it's hard to incentivise when they know there's a lead coming, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
And
that's the biggest problem is there's always another one round the corner, and it's just making sure we're making the most out of what we currently get, whilst obviously looking at just a strategy of lead generation over the next 2 or 3 years. I think it'd be huge. I think it'd be a huge part of financial services.
I think so. Lead gen is everyone's biggest bugbear, isn't it, or biggest. But how do you find, like, you're obviously utilising your leads? You got separate protection? You're going to sell mortgage and protection?
Yeah, we're all set. Yeah,
because that's a massive part of it as well, right? That's a half your business.
Yeah, one of the things that we did, and this was just before COVID actually, so it didn't start off too well. We split it out just before COVID, so we always had people doing both mortgage and protection, and we split it out. So one of the things that I definitely, in hindsight, we went the full whack, and it was either mortgage or protection, just because of the specialisms of both disciplines. But I think in hindsight, looking back, I should have kept a mortgage and protection department. So we're just building that internally as well. People who want to do both.
It does make sense. Some people are exceptional at it. Less leads, utilise it, and from start to finish, as long as they talk about it from the beginning. But then other people don't want to sell it, and like you say, especially on the volume stuff, right? Because it's just they know there's another lead coming, so it's very difficult to go make sure you squeeze everything.
So it's like you said, the last 3 years, look, we've trained people up. Like we've got a lot of people who have been here a long time, so they used to do protection. They probably didn't want to do it, so that's why they chose not to. Then most of the people we've trained up over the last 3 years have just been mortgage, you see. So yeah, I think it'll take a bit of time to build it back up to probably having 40, 50 advisors that do both. But
that's positive that you've looked at that though in hindsight and gone, I've cocked up a bit here. I need to fix that problem. It's a good.
Absolutely. We again, I think one of the strongest things we do is admit it when we get it wrong. Honestly, internally, that's not right. Yeah.
How hard is that? How quick is that for you guys though? Because decision making must be like turning a cruise liner. Do you know what I mean?
I think, to be honest, I'm just one of them people that would rather make a decision rather than not. And I think we get more. It's harder getting people into that train of thought to make decisions rather than not.
It's not paralysis by analysis, isn't it? You keep thinking, you overthink every decision, then nothing gets done.
But no, we're to be fair, there's some things that obviously need the governance around them, but just decisions that we know need to be made, we turn around quite quickly, to be honest.
That's interesting, just because you think like, if you've come up, obviously, and it's quite a lot on your shoulders because there's a big decision that has to be sort of tiered down to a big business. But like you say, if you get it done and it's wrong, you change it. Right?
With the communication we've got, we do try and involve lots of people in it. Like we'll always reach out for people's views and making sure that they're consulted. Again, not that we need to consult, but I think it's just good when you get people that are doing the job every day. Get their opinion.
If you haven't been doing it, you don't want to end up with that like a hive mentality of we've got a great idea, and then like I said before as well, you've got 440 odd brains there that can chip in. I wanted to touch on, I did say half an hour, but I'm going to keep you for longer. I wanted to touch on the culture side of things, because you said it's really important. Obviously, we talked about the difficultness of getting in, but what is culture to you then there? What are the things that make L&C great, in your opinion, of the culture-wise?
I think that it needs to be driven from the top.
I'm sorry, but I see that in every single company we work with. It is a tear down from the top constantly. If people think they can act a certain way and that their team will act a different way, it's bullshit. It just never happens.
So I mentioned it earlier. We're one of them. Absolutely, the Exco team. We're all at the same level, apart from hierarchy or title. I think it's just I think you've got to have empathy, compassion, but on the flip side, without looking too weak. I think that's really key. I think just making sure that everyone knows that you do have a strategy and sticking to that core mission and making sure that you stick to it. But also just what I said earlier, but if it's going in the wrong direction, just being agile to make sure you can move around as well. But telling people that, I think for me, it's the key of knowing who is right for the business and knowing who is wrong for the business. I think that and being able to make those decisions very, very quickly.
You spot that quite well, just for like longevity in the game. You know who works there, who doesn't. You get a feel for people quite quickly.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think I do. And that's knowing. And listen, knowing. And it's going to be one of the hardest things where Cindy comes in, is just being stepping out really and letting him run the business. And listen, Phil, Mr. Rickards has told me nose in and hands out. And I think, but knowing how this business has been, knowing what we've done badly, knowing what we've done well, really helps with that. I think that, listen, I kind of feel like I'm obsessed with it. So, and that passion sometimes comes across wrongly at times to people. And so I think that showing passion without stressing people out is a key one as well.
That's interesting you say that, actually. I did a podcast with someone recently and I said, you're so passionate about the same, so like yourself. I said, you can see it in everything you do. And he said the same thing about, you do have to sometimes not rein it in, but just make sure that passion comes across as not as intense. Because like you say, we're all obsessed with our businesses. That's why we love it. But not everyone in the business is. So you kind of, it's making sure it comes across in the right way.
And some people get it worse than others. Like again, they'll probably smile if they watch this afterwards. Some do get it worse because I know they're able to take it. But I think that there is times when that passion you do stress people out with it, which is not. Listen, it's fine. I get stressed out. That's cool. It's fine. Yeah, you know what I mean. But for others, they don't enjoy that. And then I just think knowing the details key. Knowing the detail is absolutely key for that. Making sure you're getting the right culture, because just people can't pull the wool over your eyes then, and that's when you know whether people are in or out. And then lastly, just making sure people know you're there, but also give them the space. I think that's the
difficult, isn't it? Like you said then about not jumping, like not wanting to jump back in because you know stuff. That's going to be like a learning point for you as well, right? Where you kind of have to look at.
And listen, I think everything I spoke there is about leadership, and I think that's what drives that culture, is the leadership at the top. I'm really convinced on that, because as I said, 2.5-3 years ago, I really didn't believe in culture. I hated the word, but I've absolutely firmly turned around to knowing that's the most important. Like, we can talk about strategy till we're blue in the face. If you ain't got the culture right, you ain't doing anything.
I mean, we're the same in regards to culture. We were looking at it, and it was a bit woolly and that kind of thing. And actually, what we realised is our culture is a really high standard, and our culture is our work ethic. So we went away from all this woolly stuff. They're like, oh, it's a great place to work and all that. Like, okay, but we're all here because our standard is high. So let's all agree on that, and then we can hold each other accountable, because we go, is that our culture? Is that so that's I think that's way more important than the fluffy bit of like, making sure everyone loves coming to work, because that's a bit bullshit. Because I love coming to work. I love my job, but you still got to have it's the standard stuff that keeps people interested in working with us. So it's
And as you say, it's just making sure. Like, I really enjoy working hard. I really, and I'm sure you're the same. And it's just how far you can filter that out into the organisation, and that does become hard, obviously, with so many people. But I think we're working, because we've seen the bottom end of culture at LNC. We're working daily on making sure that culture remains at the forefront of everything we do.
Do you know what, that was going to be my last question, but I've got one more. Just because you brought it up then, just in regards to about leadership, about future leaders, how do you spot them? What do you look for in these guys who are wanting to put their head above the parapet and say, I'm next for management, I'm next for team leader, or whatever it may be?
Do you know what? It's really, really difficult, because I've always probably over the years tried to recruit people in the same mould as myself, and dealing with those biases. I'm doing some work with a brilliant leader we've got called Amy Potter, who's a protection head of advice, and she's doing remarkably well. And it's just, she's taught me something last week about dealing with the biases. And what we've done is we've done a plan. She's put a management tool together to try and get our future managers together. And what that has taught her and then me is that going through that period, the people that are coming through as managers wouldn't have been the ones that she would have chose.
Interesting.
So dealing with those biases. So we're doing lots of work around that, to be honest, and just making sure that it's as I said, I'll be brutally honest with this kind of stuff. I've always probably thought, need people that are the same as me. Absolutely opposite, by the way.
I've said that before. Just recruit 3 of me. I think no, because they're actually off trying to build their business. You know what I mean? They, the same mentality as me, are not very good at. I don't need them all of me. I need the opposite of me. I need all the stuff that I can't do. But it's very easy to fall into that trap, isn't it? Going, well, I did it, so surely the next person should be a bit like me. But actually, if I look at like our ops manager and the people that will be senior in this business, that we're polar opposites.
Yeah, and that's definitely a big learning for me, and big learning. And I think that's the key, learning from people under you as well. Like if you're talking about hierarchy, like again, I'm not one to claim that I know everything and get it all right. Absolutely couldn't be further from the truth. But I think that if the people who are working underneath you in a hierarchy, you're learning from them as well. I think culturally that's massive for LNC. In any business.
Amazing. Thank you, mate. I appreciate that. That's really good. If people want to get hold of you, obviously all of your socials will be on our socials when we put this out. But if anyone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way? Obviously, CEO of a big business now. We can't just be phoning your phone. But what's the best way to contact you?
I think it's probably LinkedIn. To be fair, absolutely. Again, I can share email addresses on the
we'll put all of yours on ours, and then. But thank you, Matt. I really appreciate your time today, and everyone listening. I hope you got some good insights from that. And if anyone does want to speak to Mark or anyone at LNC, like I said with Mark, then all of their socials will be on our socials. But thank you, everyone watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify. I appreciate your time, Mark. Thank you very much, mate.
Thank you.